Hanifa, look up. Welcome, welcome to the Empower Hour, coming to you with another impactful topic of discussion, as we always do here every Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. We thank you for tuning in with us. I am Al Pomar.
And I am Hanifa.
And what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into the topic of discussion, and we're going to loop back midway into the program and share with you guys some of the things that we have coming up here at Everlasting Life Vegan Restaurant and Lounge. Brother Imhotep Fatiu is back with us once again. Welcome back to the program. Yeah, I'm always excited to interview you, because you always have something relevant and impactful to share. And it's information that, I don't know about Hanifa, but for me, I take back and I think about for days and weeks afterwards some of the things that you share, that it becomes that pungent in my mind.
I appreciate that.
So, okay, well, let the folks who may not know who you are and have not tuned into any of the previous programming, share with them a little bit, please.
My name is Imhotep Fatiu. I'm the founder of PLM, Pan-African Liberation Movement. We're located in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm author of the book series Urban Philosophy. The first one was the Thought and Behavior System. The second one was Politics of Urban Struggle. The third one was Urban Philosophy, New African Revolutionary Vanguard. And I recently released this fourth book, African Manhood in the 21st Century.
Hot off the press.
Yes, hot off the press. So that's who I am. In short, I believe in giving every fiber of my being to push African people forward towards some type of sovereignty.
Okay. And our discussion today is manhood.
And leadership.
And leadership.
Yes,
You
excellent.
want to start? Go ahead, no.
We're talking about manhood and leadership. I have a number of questions to ask, but we did an introduction. This isn't your first time here. You're not new to us. But I know the last time that you were here with us, we kind of touched on this topic of manhood briefly. We sort of surfaced it. So I just wanted to ask you to define in your own words what manhood is.
What I would like to say going forward is, when I believe that whenever we talk about any topic or concept that pertains to African people, we need to make a distinction. And the distinction is that when I speak of manhood, I'm not just speaking of manhood in general.
Okay.
I ain't being specific. I'm talking about African manhood. Because African manhood is different from any other type of manhood. So as I proceed to talk about it, I'm going to speak about it in a way in which I feel is best fitting for African men.
Okay.
So for me, when I think of the African manhood, I'm speaking about an African male who have evolved to a state to understand that he has a responsibility to first protect, provide, and nurture himself, his family, his community, and African people. And he had to do that on all fronts based on whatever his intellectual capacities allow him to do. That's what we need on the forefront. We need men to understand that there. So what I mean by that is, hypothetically speaking, we need African men who know that if they are a writer, they need to write for African people. We need African men to know that if you like developing businesses, you need to develop a business for African people. So this is what it's about, to put to the forefront that the type of men that we need in the 21st century are men who understand that they must be a vessel or a vehicle of liberation for African people.
So are these men born?
Great question.
Or are they created?
Well, no, they're not born.
Okay.
We come to the world with the necessary stuff to be African men.
Okay.
In Western society, the belief is that you are born and then you just logically becomes a man. Right? See, that's a falsity. It doesn't work that way. In the African context, manhood is forged. Manhood is cultivated. Manhood is achieved. Manhood is that what the boy aspires to become. But you do not become traditionally an African man by yourself. You become an African man under the guidance of African men. So there are unique responsibilities and tasks that the developing man must demonstrate to prove and validate his manhood.
Such as?
Hypothetically speaking, in some societies, you have to go out and you have to hunt. You have to be able to hunt. You have to be able to trap specific animals. You have to know the landscape. You have to know what's edible and what's not edible. You have to know how to survive. You have to know how to make a fire. In this society, we have men that's early 20s who can't do nothing around the house. They can't fix a light bulb. They can't do anything. But we saying we men. So what I'm saying is that historically and traditionally, we came out of societies that prepared us to be useful and resourceful for our people. That's at the core of it.
So with these men who you just touched on, who are in their 20s, and they have no idea of the concepts that you're talking about. They're far removed from the African-centered mindset that we're talking about. Is it too late for these men in their 20s? And if it's not too late, what does that process look like to get them there? Because I find that to be a struggle the older a person gets to kind of get them out of, what their norm is. Yeah.
No, I don't think it's too late for all of them. Now, I have come across some individuals who I feel who have given up on themselves and who have accepted the way that they are.
Right.
But I think that a great majority of young developing men can be developed into men. And I think that process, in short, will look like a process of, I don't want to use the terminology rite of passage.
Okay.
Because even when we say rite of passage, we're still using a concept that was given to us by Europeans when we say that. What I mean is this. See, what we define as rite of passage was naturally built into the socialization process for traditional African people.
Okay.
We didn't have to call it that. It was just a part of the process. We knew that we had to do these things for our young people. Whereas in this particular society, we allow young people to run around and make tons of mistakes for the first 10, 15 years of their life, and then we say enter into a rite of passage. It doesn't work that way. The entire time that you are in the world, you are being prepared to be the man. Your entire entry into the world is in preparation to be a man. That's what you have to come in for, because in the final analysis, we each must serve as something that pushes us forward as a race of people. So therefore, you have to forever be in preparation for your role. We can't wait. We can't push off 10 years. We can't let you just languish for 10 or 15 years and then say, now you got to get prepared. No, the preparation is your entire life.
So it sounds to me like the parents are the ones who need the proper instruction then. So because how do you instill in children proper instruction when you don't even know what to give them?
You can't, and you won't do that. And that's the reason why we are at a place where it has to be a new beginning point, and it has to be a new standard. So we have to develop the processes and the systems that's going to take young people and begin to prepare them for manhood, but with the understanding that this is what you must do with your boys when you start having children. So the process has to start. And this is kind of what I'm trying to do with African manhood in the 21st century, trying to lay out a framework that young men, developing men, can begin to apply to themselves as they move forward. But we need men who understand that they are men to stand up and start working with developing men. We need elder men who understand our history, who understand our traditions, to come forward and to begin to critique those of us who are not behaving at our best capacity in terms of African manhood. We can no longer just sit back and just talk about it in quiet time when we see individuals are not doing what they're supposed to do. Case in point, in most of these communities that we know of, we know when an individual is in that house abusing this woman. We are aware of that, but that can't be. That's not characteristic of an African man to abuse the African woman in no capacity. But we know these things occur and no one is stepping in, right? We know we have individuals, who are not being true and faithful to his wife. Right? But we don't check him on that. That's not characteristic of an African man.
And that's what I was about to ask. Like the society that we live in, and I'm hearing you in saying that we need to separate the two when we're talking about African manhood. There's a difference. Because in the society that we find ourselves existing in today, I feel like it's a setup for boys to remain boys for as long as possible. And so we have men who are in their 30s still functioning like they're 16 and 17 years old. And I think a lot of it has to do with them being given a pass. One, in our community, because there's a breakdown in the family structure, and the mothers that are us, the women who are raising these boys, because I have a son myself, we have to be educated, and we have to be aware of. I don't know how much of it we can do, because I feel like there's a piece of this that's just nature, and I don't think that we have the capacity. You know, you hear a woman say, "I'm his mother and his father." That's impossible.
That's foolishness.
Right, it is foolishness. But I think some of us really believe that, and I think we're doing our boys a disservice. So I know a lot of it has to do with the breakdown in our families. But how do we, in the society that we live in, I feel like, oh, they're just being he's just being a boy, and then this leads to where men are hitting on women, and we're not holding them accountable in our communities, right? All of that is contributes to that. It leads up to that. How do we sanctify ourselves, separate ourselves somewhat? How do we do that? The African manhood, getting men to that while still existing in a society that's anti-African manhood?
That's a great question, because one of the premises of this book that I put forth is that African men come to the world with the warrior principle inherent within them. Mm-hmm. So when you're living within a warring society, all your men should be warriors in some capacity. Mm-hmm. So we understand that it's anti-us, so therefore we already got to produce the warriors that's going to deal with the anti. We can no longer allow our men to develop in the society thinking that it's neutral in any capacity. Mm-hmm. And what I'm saying is this, I'm not saying that when I mean by warrior, I don't mean that everybody that's going to actually be on the battlefield in terms of being a physical soldier in that particular capacity. I am saying that wherever you are good at, whatever you do well, you have to do it from the position that you are moving against something that's moving against your people.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So if you're inside the music industry, you can't be in there and be mute. You have to be in the music industry going to war on that battlefield there. If you some type of actor, you got to be going to war, as a Paul Robeson would do. This is what this is about, and we begin to instill this type of thinking in our boys to make them understand that this is your responsibility and this is your obligation. This is what you must do. Then we would change the situation, the dynamics. Anti-African people will forever be, because Europeans are in the world.
Right, absolutely.
Why do you feel that so many of us don't have that concept, don't stand up and do the things that's going to help push us forward as a people? And it's every man for himself. Well, I ain't got nothing to do with that. I'm gonna keep quiet because I'm gonna lose my job. Or why do you feel like so many of us are in that state of existence?
Because manhood is essentially a cultural designation. That's why. And so when you have males who don't have the cultural component to go to it, their concept of manhood doesn't develop along the cultural lines necessary to inform them in the ways that's going to dictate the appropriate behavior. Mm-hmm. That's why we're walking around devoid of culture. Mm-hmm. And when you don't have culture, you don't have a clear idea of what's going on in the world, because you don't understand that you're functioning within a cultural matrix. And that's what's wrong with us. We don't understand that everything is cultural within this world, and we don't understand that our idea of manhood is culturally determined. So we look to our culture to tell us what we must be as men. This is what this is about. We have a great deal of development men who do not have the cultural stuff that's going to give them the clarity, and that's going to inform their minds in such a way that's going to bring about the behaviors that we need them to be demonstrating.
So just follow up real quick. What do you say to those who say, well, what are you talking? I have culture. I have hip hop. I have, I turn my hat to the side. I talk slang. I have culture.
I'm blackity black.
I'm black. Yeah. What do you say to those who feel like that?
Traditionally, what I say to those individuals is I say, we have a lot of work to do. Because I know a lot of people say hip hop is a culture and things of that nature. But hip hop is when you really get into it, what hip hop is, it's an element of our culture. And that's the reason why Taking a Job put forth the book, Culture Unity. He was trying to get us to understand that we have a single culture. As long as we keep breaking it up, say we have this is culture, you have many cultures and things like that, we're going to constantly have a fragment in consciousness. We have to come to understand that there's one African culture that manifests itself differently according to the different geographical locations and the climate and things of that nature, and we have different elements that go into that culture. But essentially what culture is the collective behavior of a people as that behavior relates to the ideals, aspirations, and principles that its ancestors have laid down in terms of the values, rituals, customs, and traditions. So when the people are behaving collectively consistent with that format or that platform that your ancestors laid down, then you are behaving within your culture. And this is what we have to get our people to come to understand.
So I guess when you were speaking about the hip hop piece, I guess would you consider it like a subculture?
I wouldn't even say sub, because sub implies beneath. Hip hop is African. It is African culture.
Okay.
But it's not a culture separate from African culture.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to get us to understand. It's us. You know what I'm saying? It came from us analyzing and dissecting, the socio-political conditions coming out of the 60s into the 70s. So it's still hip-hop is linking right in what we define as being the black power. It's us coming up until now. It's just that this particular element or this particular expression of us has been co-opted.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
If you're just joining us, we're here in the studio live with Brother Imhotep Fatiu. He's come down from Baltimore to share with us Manhood, to talk about manhood and his fourth and most recent book. So we're going to jump right back. Oh, if you want to call us up, the lines are open. Dial the hotline now. The number is 240-455-5934. Going back, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
You got so many questions.
Yeah, I do. So going back to the manhood piece and the leadership piece, specifically the leadership piece, is our culture waiting for our men to lead the way? Are we waiting for our men?
I would say this, not necessarily waiting for the men to lead the way. African culture is a culture that is it's complementary. So our African women and the African men always works in unison. Now the men has a unique and a specific role that we must fulfill. One of the things I like to say is that when men do not stand up, boys run amok. If you look at in the inner city communities and you go in and you say, well, there's violence here, there's violence there, and then if you look at the ages, right, you tend to see that majority of the individuals that we may define as being, delinquent or whatever, is pretty much from the ages of 14 to like 27, right? And then if you start looking around, you won't see a great deal of men constantly present. So we have boys trying to make sense of their own understanding about their own reality and their inability to conflict resolute because men aren't there. So when men do not stand up, boys run amok.
Yes.
So the culture is not necessarily waiting for African men. African men has to come to understand what their roles are as African men. And part of that is being visible. I say this right here. If men aren't out on the peripheral, if men are not out in the community, if men are not the ones that stand and guard and stand and watch, what's going to stop invaders from coming in? If you go into any other ethnic group's community, you see their men. In Park Heights, you go to the top part of Park Heights, which is a Jewish community. You see those little European Jews walking around with those big hats on their head. Now, are they capable of stopping black men? I'm not going to say that they are, but I'm saying they're out there.
They're present.
Their presence, right? And their presence make their women feel safe and make their children feel safe, right? And it sets the standard for the child. So it gives the male child an idea as to what he must do when he come of age. What I'm saying is that, and someone argue, well, there are men out there. No, I'm not saying an adult male is a man. So let's be clear, that's not what I'm arguing here. I'm not saying that the 35-year-old male is a man. I'm not arguing that. For me, there's a distinction between the boy, the male, and the African man. There's a clear distinction. I am saying that African men have to be developed, and African men have to be the ones within the community. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I guess I'm thinking about the idea of adolescence, okay? What would be the Africa-centered approach to what we call adolescence? Because I know what the Western approach is. I know, and we talk about the brain still, the frontal lobe of the brain still developing, and all the way up until like probably 21 or something. So the decision-making piece, and you see teenagers feeling like they're invincible, like nothing can happen to them. What would be the African-centered approach to what we call adolescence? Is it still the same approach, or does it look different? Should it look differently?
For one, when I was young, I also thought I was invincible. I really thought I was invincible.
I still think that way. I know.
I've done my share of, I've done my share of stuff to individuals.
Right.
But I carry a 45 on my spinal cord because someone showed me you're not invincible, and they gave me 2 slugs. But the reason why when you're young you feel you're invincible, you think like that, that's because you lack awareness. And I think we lack awareness because for a great part of our life, no one is putting any time into developing us. And that's how you get to that state. And so since the Europeans make themselves the authority on everything, they tend to judge everybody by them. They use themselves as the standard by which to judge others. So since they are not developing their children and allowing their children to be reckless and rude and wild and running like that, then their assessments of their own child is what they say this is how all children are. That's not the case for us.
Yes, the bar is lower. The standard is lower because it's like our kids are here, so it means everyone, and that's what I'm really trying to get to. Right.
The Europeans are low in terms of our children.
Morals, ethics, everything. All that.
Our children are endowed with the capacity to perform. It's the duty and responsibility of the parenting individuals to engage those children and to develop those children. This is our responsibility across the board. And in most cases, we do not do it because we are buying into someone else's narrative about child development.
Yes. My degree's in psychology, and so I know exactly what you're talking about because there's a lot of psychology material out there, and I'm like, this isn't us. No, it's not.
And going back to the whole culture piece, and we hear some of us will say things like, well, I'm not African, I'm American. I live in America, I don't know anything about Africa.
I've never been to Africa.
Never been there, I don't know anything. And so with that type of attitude, isn't that kind of like stripping your own self from the proper knowledge of yourself when you do that?
Yes.
And how do you gain your own culture or gain a better sense of understanding of who you are if you cut ties with the vast majority of your ancestors?
You really can't. And what it comes down to is that at some point, somehow people have to come to an understanding that they need to further inform themselves. And oftentimes, you can reach people and get them to see sometimes things have to occur to most people. And in most cases, that's what it is. But I tell people is this right here. The greatest landmass in the world that has the most resources in the world is the one place that you do not want to relinquish. So for us to keep running around saying we're not Africa, somebody's going to steal that from us, right? We can't keep on thinking that way. You know what I'm saying? There is nothing naturally in the USA. Japan really has virtually no natural resources. If you start looking at these places in the world, the USA really has no resources for real, right? Africa has all of the natural resources in the world.
The world was starved without Africa.
That's right.
So if we in our idiocy keep on saying we are not this, we are going to trick ourselves out of the greatest place in the world.
Stripping our own wealth.
Yes. That's because we're not aware. Right. So we have to forever be on guard, and we have to forever make sure that we are always saying we are African. And we can get into the argument, which is to me is foolish. Well, Africa is not its real name. They didn't call it Africa. It's a foolish argument because the whole concept of a continent, you see what I'm saying, is something that came from Europeans. So we're not going to get into what did our ancestors call the whole landmass, because when you get into it, African people, historically and traditionally, probably wasn't even thinking about trying to define the whole landmass. They more so was just thinking about in terms of defining themselves in relation to a land. So when we say Africa, we're just trying to identify with the landmass. And then some says stuff like this, well, there was once upon a time when the whole world was together. You talking about Pangea. That's still a European concept, the whole Pangea theory. And even that time period, if you go with that theory, it predates the time period when we was even in existence. This is the time period that predates human existence for the most part.
I think I get the impression we nitpick off so many little frivolous things that are meaningless in the grand scheme of what we're up against.
Yes.
And so we get so hung up and caught in all these little fractions of arguments, and the big elephant in the room is swallowing us all up.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is rooted in, it's easier for us to not admit that we are not ready for the movements that we're talking about. There's like, instead of just saying I'm not there yet, but I'm working towards getting there. We make it seem like we're there, but we're really not. And so to have the conversation, this is where we have every excuse in the book, every single why this can't happen, why that can't happen.
Right.
I have a question as far for the woman, because the reality is African American households are being headed by women. I need you to speak to us, right? And tell us when that breakdown happens, when the male is removed or have removed themselves or whatever that is, but they're not present. What can we do to make sure that that cycle doesn't continue with our sons, and that our sons is educated or brought into the fold where African-centered manhood is taught? What can single mothers, what is it that you would advise us to do? Not us, but yes.
That's a great question. Personally, I believe that the breakdown between the African man and the African woman has a lot to do with the fact that I don't believe that neither of us understand the other. Right?
Okay.
I believe that's the beginning, and I believe that most of us don't want to acknowledge that. And because we don't have the knowledge of how the other operates, we tend to clash a lot.
Yes.
And then the second thing I believe that contributes to that is we don't have an idea or concept of how African men and women should be in relationship besides what we have viewed within this society. See, most of us don't have any type of historical reference that gives us an idea or concept of how we should be in relationship. So I think that for any single person that have been in a relationship more than 2 times, right? And you are not currently in a relationship, right? You can no longer point at the other, right? You can no longer point at the other, right? Yeah, you can no longer point at the other. The other can have his or her jump,
yes.
But at the same time, you have to now do some serious self-analyzation.
I agree.
Because there's no reason why in our adult stages we can get in these situations and keep falling out. Something is wrong by what you are attracting, or you're doing something wrong. And in the final analysis, you are part of that equation.
Yeah.
Now, if you are a woman and you have a son, and you've been twice in a situation and you're not in a situation, I think the best thing you can do for that son is to really, really talk to him about understanding himself and making sure he understands what a woman is, helping him to understand this is what you need to know. You need to really know your strengths, son. The things you can and cannot tolerate. You need to have a clear idea of what are your principles, how you want to raise children. You need to make sure he's thinking these things out before he go into that situation. Because a lot of times we clash in the situation because we have ideological differences. We be different on our principles a lot of times. And we need to be clear up front. So I think that's what a woman can do. You know what I'm saying? Most definitely assess herself. But if she got a young man, talk to him about making sure he understands who he is. And if he don't understand who he is, make sure he can get linked up with some type of African man that that you have visibly witnessed that's demonstrating some strong African-centered manly principles. And try to get that man, to link up and help your son.
Yeah.
Again, family, if you're just joining us, this is the Empower Hour, where we do an hour worth of impactful topics of discussion midweek every Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. Like us on Facebook under Empower Hour Talk Show. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, which is under Free the People. And you can call us right now if you have a question for Imhotep. The number is 240-4 1-800-455-5934. What we're going to do right now is jump right into the promo section of the day, and we're going to share with you some of the things we have, exciting things we have coming up here at Everlasting Life Restaurant and Lounge, located at 9185 Central Avenue in Capitol Heights, Maryland. Each and every Thursday is Children's Night. Children eat free here as long as they're 12 and under, and here accompanied by a paying adult. Not only do they eat free, but they have all different types of activities that they do together, arts and crafts and yoga sessions, and they dance, karaoke. They do all kind of fun things every Thursday, and that's from 6 to 9 p.m. Following that is every Friday, a dinner and a movie. We take the eating in area and we transpose it and make it a movie theater. So you come on out and join us from 7 to 9 p.m. We air a different documentary and or movie that's centered around issues that impact our everyday lives. That's again every Friday from 7 to 9, and that's also free. Marketplace every third Saturday of the month from 11 to 4 p.m. If you're in the market for fresh produce or natural supplements, herbs, spices, vegan groceries, we have it all here for you every third Saturday from 11 to 4 right here at Everlasting Life. If you're interested at all in joining our marketplace as a vendor, reach out to us on the, you can find us easily on Google under Everlasting Life Restaurant and Lounge. Every first Saturday of the month, we host what's called a Black Wall Street Renaissance. It's an all-day festive occasion. We fill the lounge area with vendors. Local craft vendors come to sell their wares and their products. And not only that, we host different lecturers. This first Saturday, May 5th, the Minister of Wellness is going to be in the house with us, Nathaniel Jordan. If you don't know who he is or have never heard him minister before, you definitely want to get here for that. He's very, very, very insightful. This brother lost over 100 pounds in 1 year. He didn't use diet. He kept it off for 5 years, and now he's going around the country sharing his wisdom with other people and helping them to lose weight and keep the weight off. So come join us. That's a free lecture that starts at 2 p.m. Broadcasting here at eLife Studios. If you see what Hanifa and I do, and you think you yourself have a voice out there that can be heard, and you want to get it to a wider audience, join us here at eLife Studios. We're looking for people in front of as well as behind the camera. Anything related to studio work, we would love to have you here join us. Okay, Everlasting Life is one of 3 restaurants. There's 2 other locations, Vegeritos as well as Evolve. They both are located in Tacoma Park section in Washington, D.C. Love to have you there at either 3 locations. Same great tasting food. All right, back to the discussion at hand. Again, with Imhotep Fatiu, call-in number is 240-455-5934. Do we have any questions from the Facebook audience? Okay, they're just listening.
Yeah, they're just listening today, just tuned in.
You know, what has to happen in a man's life that allows him to get comfortable and cozy with allowing women, mothers, and other people to provide for him? I mean, how do you get there as a man comfortably?
You're saying how do an adult male allows women to take care of him?
Yeah,
that's the
pretty
question.
much. Yes, yeah. Who's breaking on this man? Skate around it.
Imhotep is like, let me be clear.
Yeah. What has to happen in his life for him to get to that point?
Underdevelopment. Underdevelopment. It's like it's like I said earlier on. Like, you know, we come to the world. You know, our African manliness as males being born as young babies, inherent within us is a warrior principle that can be cultivated. We have to be put through a unique process in terms of our rearing and socialization that will tap into and bring that out. And in most cases, that's not always happening with a lot of individuals. Some people, their life moved them through certain situations that forced that out of them, but some people don't always get there. Case in point, like myself. I was raised by a single mother. it took for me to actually end up in the streets to begin to develop some of the principles that I now live with. These principles didn't come out of my house. My house. It wasn't like an adult man there giving me these particular principles. You know what I'm saying? For me to my sense of order come from the streets, being in the streets, selling drugs. My sense of loyalty come from being in the streets. I didn't get that in the house. My sense of being resourceful, it come from being in the streets. I got cleanliness from my mother because she did a lot of cleaning and stuff like that. So she put that into me. But a lot of the other things came from me, going through certain things in life. Going to prison is where I began to come into an awareness of my African manhood. It was in prison.
Yeah.
So some people go through different things in life where that warrior principle was tapped into and cultivated. But a great deal of our young brothers and males don't get that.
Yeah.
A great deal of them don't get that. So they're left to just age and grow without development. And that's the thing. The internal piece isn't taking place.
Yeah.
And what happens is because we are living in what I like to define as being a myopic situation, a lot of women, not all, but a lot of women want companionship. They want these things, and they tolerate and accept these guys to be less than men.
Yeah. Agreed.
As long as he's there, as long as I can come home and he'll hug me at night, as long as he do that, I want to be hugged. That's because, she probably had a tough upbringing.
Right.
Yeah.
So as long as he can do the bare minimum, he's allowed to be.
Right.
And so it had to change. Now, I'm not saying that women shouldn't help brothers. They should, because when I met my wife, I was coming home from prison in 2004. And I tell everybody this story. I ain't having anything in 2004. She was okay. She was living on her own. She was driving, doing the thing they say she was supposed to do. She's 23. You know what I'm saying? She had a nice job. She can take care of herself. But I was able to develop and grow. So some men can and some men can't. But essentially, it's underdeveloped.
So what is our role as women in a situation like that? I mean, what is our role and responsibility to not contribute to the boys, not helping them grow to become men?
I think African women also need to. I think African women need to develop a concept of African manhood. I think a lot of women call themselves African, but their ideal of a man in a relationship is European. And this is what my experience have allowed me to see. I'm not just talking and saying this, because I know our sisters will come in and try to cut my head off for saying this. Right? So I'm telling you what I know from experience. I mean, I've been in the movement for a very long time, and I run an organization across the board. A lot of the sisters have to come to understand what it means to be an African man by allowing themselves to interface, interact, and observe African men. And also, I think African women who call themselves African women need to truly come into an understanding of what it means to be an African woman. Because if you truly understand what it means to be an African woman, then you are complement to what it is to be an African man.
Absolutely. There's a lot of undoing. But I think is the caller still on the line? We have a caller on the line that may have a question. I want to make sure we get them in.
Caller, are you there?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Caller, are you there?
Yes, hello?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
What's your question, sir?
I wanted to ask, how is a teen turning into an adult to treat his other young black kids in the community?
I didn't hear that.
Can you repeat your question, please?
Yes. Hello?
Yes, we're listening.
I'm good. My question was, how should a teen that just turned to adult to treat the other little black kids in his life? Like, should his actions change because he's older now, because he's considered an adult?
Okay, we got your question.
How should a teen that just turned to adult, like he's an adult now,
Yes.
Okay.
how should he treat his other younger black friends, brothers, siblings in the community? How should he treat them now that he's older?
Okay.
Should he act the same, or should he be more of like a role model type figure now?
Okay, we got your question. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
A developing young African that's becoming a young teenager, I'm assuming by teen you're meaning 18, 19, and possibly 16 or 17. I believe that when you come of those ages, you are still in a developmental state yourself. And if you have younger siblings that may be 13, that may be 12, 10, or 11, you must not forget when you were those ages, and you must understand the things that they are going through, and you must help their transition, not by becoming dictatorial, nor thinking that you are better because you are older, or believing that you have arrived. The older you get, it increases your responsibilities in terms of how you must behave. Not necessarily in terms of what you must tell them to do, but by so showing them what they must become. This is what it's about. As we evolve as men, our behavior should become better. And we use the behavior as an example of what the young people can model themselves after.
Right.
But you work with the youth in
Yes.
Baltimore. What are some of the challenges, the greatest challenges that you see that's currently taking place in our youth that can be changed?
The greatest challenge is when we send them back home to their parents. That's the greatest challenge. I've been dealing with youth since 2004.
That's real.
The greatest challenge when you send them back home to the parents in most cases. In most cases, we're dealing with a drastic situation, and I'm very sympathetic to our parents, and I commend the black parent. So I do not want anyone to feel offended by what I say, but I must speak a truth based in experience. Since our situation is so drastic, and you have a lot of parents, female parents, that are parenting by themselves, they seek relief.
Yes.
So in most cases, they're not really looking for the value in your program. They really need a place to drop the child off at.
A break.
So it's no reinforcement when the child goes back.
Right.
So the work that we do with the children gets undone in most cases when they go back home.
So sending their children to these programs has more to do with them than the child.
Yes.
Their own selfish needs. Well,
Yes.
their own needs
That's
than
in
the
most
child.
cases. In my experience, since 2004 up until now, that's 14 years.
Yeah.
This is what I've experienced.
So what do you advise then? What do you advise to turn that around?
One of the things we implemented to put in place is we created a parent action committee. And we have to get better in that regard to stay more consistent with meeting with the parents. And what I came to realize is that if you're going to work with children, you have to essentially work with the whole family. So the parent action committee is designed to be weekly meetings with the parents to help the parents to come to understand the value of the program, to get the parents to get more involved, so we can become partners in helping your child become a better child. It has to be a working partnership. It just can't be that you send your child to a place that's going to fix your child. It has to be a partnership that we each engage consciously, willfully, with the understanding that it's going to require work on both ends.
I guess when I was listening to you talk about the woman, and we can often, if we're checking ourselves, sometimes we're operating from a Eurocentric mindset. A lot of what love means have kind of been projected onto us. We've been programmed to say this is, the prince on the white horse riding in to save us, and all of this foolishness Disney have kind of instilled in us. We grow up. And we grow, but even before that, because this starts from very young, and then we grow up, and it's sort of like, and you talked about women settling, where I would rather cuddle this man, enable this male's bad behavior than be alone. So my question is, with women and men who maybe find themselves on this journey towards African-centered womanhood and manhood, people want companionship even while you're on your journey.
Yes.
So I'm a person, I believe not just in theory, I believe in field work. I think that's where most of our growing happens. So you can get all the knowledge, but if you don't interact and put it into action, you miss out on a lot of lessons to be learned. So what do you say to people who are on that journey? They're still learning about themselves, they're getting there, and maybe they meet people on the way. A man meets a woman that he's into, she meets a man, but then it's like they clash, and it's like, well, this didn't work out. Should we be taking ourselves off the market while we're on this journey, or this is a part of the journey?
It's a part of the process. And I think
But how many frogs do you have to kiss?
You know, it's a part of the process. The first thing I believe we have to redefine struggle. I think that struggle has a negative connotation, but struggle is natural within nature. See, in order for anything to develop, come into existence, and to sustain and maintain its existence, it must go through struggle.
Okay.
It's an impossibility to escape struggle.
Right.
So the concept and the idea that we have a relationship is one devoid of struggle.
Yeah.
Woo,
That's the mistake. Our concept and idea of relationship is one devoid of struggle.
I agree.
Yeah.
So when we enter into a situation and struggle,
That's what a divorce is. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So when struggle appears in a relationship, the idea is that it's gone bad.
Yes.
Struggle is necessary. That's the love that should be built within the relationship.
So true.
The struggle is necessary. And that's the reason why you have to assess each other up front to know that you're with someone who possesses the potential. And that's the point I was trying to make about myself. So my wife could have bounced out on me in the beginning stages, but she saw that this guy here, he had potential. I am resourceful. I'm necessary. I'm not a fool. I'm not dumb. I can get some things done. And so when you're with your partner, your mate, and on this struggle together, you're going to struggle. You're going to clash. But you need to know that he or she is there. She got it. And y'all got to work through it. See, it's the love is birthed through struggle.
Right.
See, no one comes into a relationship in love. See, we heard that terminology, we fell in love. No person on earth falls into love.
Yes.
No?
No, you can't fall into love. You can only engage in a process designed to give birth to love.
So what's all of these emotions that you're feeling?
The
butterflies and
that's what I call it.
I can't picture my life without him. You know, you're kind of on the mountaintop. What is that? What is the name for that? Can we identify what that is? Because we're saying it may not be love.
They are feel-good moments.
Yeah, okay.
They are feel-good moments that we each elicit within the other when the other is stimulating us in specific areas. You know, we each have things about the other that attracts us. Some of us are attracted to a person's voice, or how he look at me, or how he holds my hand, and those things make you feel a certain way. That's just you not knowing you good enough. These are the things that you naturally like. There could have been anybody came along and done that. You know what I'm saying?
There is an overstimulation that happens on both ends. You know, that you put your best foot forward. So I'm listening to you and I'm like, this brother might have a point, because that overstimulation, the eagerness to please each other. You know, you're watching like, oh, he like football. Ooh, I'm about to get up on my game and I don't even know nothing about football. But I come by when I have my hat on, my Redskins hat. No, but the eagerness to impress the other person. So there is an overstimulation that's involved there. And then after a while, you realize, you know, I like to say the probationary period, the honeymoon phase, where you realize I got this person, or this person realizes I don't have to put in the work, as much work anymore. And then that's where it becomes, this isn't working for me anymore, and now I need to discard of it and start anew again, and then the overstimulation begins again. It's like a cycle. Yeah.
The endorphin high right back.
And that happens because, like I said earlier on, the idea and the concept of relationship is flawed.
Yes.
Now, it's like this. If it's going to sustain itself, each have to work to sustain it.
Yeah.
So you have to continuously put forth the work to do specific things. So it's like trying to create this cycle, this circle, if you will. So the man is doing everything he needs to do to sustain his woman. Right? And then in return, the woman is doing everything she needs to do to sustain her man. And that's continuous. And that continuing process is what develops love, because the more y'all do that, the more obstacles that you're going to meet. Sometimes those obstacles occur with the two of you. Sometimes they're external to you. You know, but it's those obstacles that's going to try to love. You know what I'm saying? In the beginning stages, you can go on 3 trips a year. You know what I'm saying? Both of you got nice jobs, you're making nice money.
Right.
You go on 3 trips a year, y'all pleasing each other. You see what I'm saying? 7 years in, you can't do it no more. Both of you lost your jobs. You see what I'm saying? So what are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? What sustains you is the love. It's what you essentially bring to the relationship that sustains you. You know, that's what it's about. It's that work. It's a working shit that you have to put in.
But Imhotep, you said something. You said that you met your 24, 23-year-old wife, when you were coming fresh out of
prison.
Right. Would you say you were African man then, or you were still on that journey towards becoming that?
It's a great question.
The reason why I'm asking is because I'm going to follow up with another question.
I love personal questions because I believe that you shouldn't stand in front of people and talk if you can't be transparent. That's my belief, you know what I'm saying? So you can't, if you're ashamed to talk about what you've been through in your past, then who are you for real?
Right.
I'm not ashamed about my past. No, I believe this right here. So I went to prison when I was 20. I came home when I was 33. I stayed in prison 13 years and 9 months. So while I was in prison 13 years and 9 months, I really began to go to work on myself.
Okay.
So I believe that I was at a good place in terms of my African manhood, although prison don't provide you with all the experiences you need to fully blossom. There are elements that are missing. So there were still elements in terms of experience-wise that were missing to add to the development of my manhood. And such as, being in a relation with a woman, you still need that. Being able to raise children, you need that. All men should rear children because rearing children teaches you how to really nurture. It teaches you delicacy. It teaches you things like that, how to be soft. That's why in the African concept, part of your manhood was to be a father. You know what I'm saying? That's necessary. So those things weren't there in prison. So I had to come home and see how I went through those things there. So when I met my wife, I was pretty much clear in terms of my African manhood. And I knew that I had to behave in certain ways and execute certain responsibilities and obligations. But I still knew I needed to also be tried in those areas that prison didn't allow me to develop in. So I still knew I had to test myself in those areas. So that's the reason why when me and my wife began to talk about children, we didn't have children until I think we was probably like 7 years into our relationship. And we was clear on this. We always had these conversations. We intentionally said, now we're ready. And then we sought to have a child. Because, I had to put some things on. So then I was able to be ready to be the father that I am. You know what I'm saying? So now my youngest boy, he just produced his book. His book is about me. You know what I'm saying? That made me feel great to know that my son, my 5-year-old son, wrote a book about his father. Because I was able to be that African man for him. And when I watch him and I listen and I see him, I see all the good in me going into him. He don't have any of my shortcomings or my flaws. He has the best of me.
Speak to that, the importance of, you said you guys deliberately waited to have children.
Yes.
Versus a lot of what we see today, where sometimes it don't take long at all for us to, you know what I'm saying, start having children.
Photo grown everywhere, just everywhere. Yeah.
And we have children with strangers, pretty much.
Reason being,
pretty much.
And what does that do?
Reason being because, for one, like I said, we don't know each other, right? So most people engaging in sex. For one, you have a lot of women who don't even know their own cycle. They don't even know when they ovulate. So they don't know when they can become impregnated. Then you got the guy that's involved with them. He's driven off of lust. He's not paying attention to her cycle, so he don't even know when she's ovulating. So they just have sex randomly anytime during the month. So that's why most children, are not necessarily planned because don't want to know when it can happen. See, for me, I watched that woman, and she'd tell you, I paid attention to her. You know what I'm saying? It was time, so I began to know when she was doing what. And she knew her own body. She would talk about that. We had these conversations. So we could plan when we was going to do that. But the reasoning behind the planning is you have to be prepared to rear another life. You have to be prepared. Spiritually, psychologically, financially, you have to have some degree of preparation to engage their process. You don't know what it's going to be because it's a whole new experience. But you have to have some levels of preparation in those areas so you can go into it your best.
And not to mention who you choose
That's important
to build that seed with.
That's important.
So if if there's somebody, then we get upset, then we get these clashes and we can't even co-parent. We're not even together no more after 2 or 3 months, and now we're trying to co-parent with somebody that we weren't even.
And you can't do it. And one of the things I say
is to be like with from the get-go.
You don't know them.
I did a lecture on African fatherhood back in May last year. And one of the things I say, we can commend all the brothers who step up on the weekends and get their children. You can commend that and we can admire those brothers. But realistically speaking, and this is no slight, you got to hear what I'm saying. Realistically speaking, right, that is insignificant. Make no mistake about it. Now, I know in some situations you have no choice because you and the woman just not getting along, right? But what I've learned about raising children, and I have 5 children and 4 grandchildren, you know what I'm saying? You have to be there with your child. You have to be there with your child. Because a great deal of what your children learn is not what you do direct. is what you do indirect.
Yeah.
So it's the things that they see and they hear, you know what I'm saying, in their environment that really impacts the psyche of your child. So granted, you get your child every week, Friday night until Sunday evening, you got your child, you know what I'm saying, on and on, right? But those other days, right, in that house, whatever's going on, whatever dudes running in and out the house and stuff like that, if your child was there, that's what your child is getting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the things that is going into your child's subconscious, and those are the things that impacts your child's psyche. And that's the reason why we wonder why when a child gets a certain age, you trying to figure out why your child's saying this or doing that, because he witnessed that when he was 5.
Yeah. Yeah. Two things, but I'm gonna ask this question first. I totally agree with that. It's not enough to me. Yeah. It's unfortunate that oftentimes people cannot co-parent to where the courts have to get involved, and then they dictate when you as a father see your child and you as a mother see your child. And it's no different than the kids you talk about when Alkama asked about the greatest difficulty, because those kids are going back to that home, and you have no clue, no idea what's going on in that home at all. You know, because the kid's not telling you, you know, and you and the parent can't get along enough to even know she don't feel it's your business. But the other piece that I was going to ask about, you talked about potential, and I know just even amongst women that I talk to, you know, you have this saying where you don't marry potential. Isn't it important that that person knows their potential, not just you knowing their potential? Because what can happen is you can frustrate yourself as a brother or a sister when you're looking and you're seeing all the potential that this person has, but it's locked away beneath all of their other mess. And so you're striving and you're like, okay, but this person has potential, and you're trying to stick it out, but you burn yourself out because really that's not necessarily your job. They have to recognize their potential and pull it out. So my question is, how long is too long? Because I hear that we're not having patience, but some people have patience to their own detriment.
So I created this little equation, and it's like, it goes like, it's P plus B equals A. And what that is essentially saying is that, see, potential must be in a state of becoming to arrive at actualization. So I'm not saying, I don't want a woman to overstrain herself to look into this guy and see the local potential. No, his behavior should be a demonstration already of his potential.
Okay. And that he's aware of it.
Yes, it should be already there. He should already be doing that.
You got moving in his
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He should already be moving. Actualizing.
I just wanted to clear that up for the ladies that may be watching, and the men, because men be having patience with us too. We are some complex beings, so
real talk.
Shout out to the brothers for their patience. But sometimes you're looking and you're like, you're in this too long and it's killing you. And there are people where it's like they're holding on, but he's a good person. And you leaving doesn't take away from that. But you're killing yourself in the process because you're busy trying to pull potential out of someone who don't even recognize their own potential.
But see, if that's a woman, then her selection process was already off.
Okay.
Because you shouldn't have got that far into that situation without him having already demonstrated the capacity to transform his potential into something real.
Thank you. Yes.
That's knowing
Thank you for
That's
that.
right. That's what comes back to that. So if she had already got that far into it, then something's wrong with her part.
With her part.
Got you.
And
you don't get that far.
We
like
definitely
that.
have run out of time. But I want to get this question in real quick, and we want to talk about how they can find your book, because a lot of what you shared with us, for me, goes back to getting back to our African-centered culture.
Essentially, yes.
So so people who watch and don't know nothing about how to do that, what would be your primary steps for them to get back to African-centeredness so we can be better in our relationships and raising our children?
The first thing I would tell everyone is to be careful of any popular sensation that's running around the world talking about he or she is an authority. You need to be aware of those individuals. The second thing I would tell people is try to find individuals who makes themselves accessible, who can point you in a direction. What I mean by that, if the person can only tell you come listen to him or her, but they can't show you something, give you some type of step-by-step guide, then you need to be lured at that individual. But to answer your question specifically, if you want to start this process, you're going to have to read books.
Yes.
And I don't like to tell people to go out and read Dr. Ben first. I don't like to tell people to go out and read Dr. Check and the Job first, because these books are some really thick books, right? I like to tell people, if you want to read something that's going to just stimulate your mind and just get you started, read From the Bridal Files. That's written by Anthony Browder. That's a nice book. That's a nice book, but it'll get your brains flowing and things of that nature. You can go purchase any of my books, and I'm not just saying it because I've written these books, but they're great books that can just get your brain, your juices moving and things of that nature there. And if you're in Baltimore City or the surrounding counties, we have a study class every Sunday from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. and then from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and we teach and study African history and culture. So you can come there and be a part of that study process to become more familiar with what we mean when we say African-centered. Or if you can get your hands on any of Baruti books, primarily it's Clarity. That's a great book. You go read Centered by Baruti. That's another good book.
Complimentary.
Those books will get your brains turned. If you're trying to understand what we mean by African-centered, go read Afrocentricity. I like to tell people to read that book. Go read that book. Just go read and study Afrocentricity. Read it 2 times and then write to yourself a summary of what you've read. And this will start your process.
What do you think about, I just drew a blank, The Miseducation of the Negro?
Dr. Carter G. Woodson, that's an excellent book.
I like that book as a beginning book.
That's an excellent book.
Okay, and what about your book?
African Manhood in the 21st Century. I like to look at this as being a philosophical definition and protocol and as a framework. And essentially what I've done in this book is I start off by talking about what African manhood is, and this is based on what we were historically. And then I go into clarifying manhood is not manhood, because I don't want us to get in the habit of just thinking that manhood is just something that everybody, you know what I'm saying? No, African manhood is unique and distinct. And then I get into speaking about the ideal African man, which I call the meiotic man, and I outline 13 basic attributes that all African men should be able to exemplify at some point in their developmental stages. And then I clarify vulnerability, because too many of us are afraid of vulnerability. But I talk about it in this book. We have to understand the power of being vulnerable. I destroy the concept of machoism, because there's no such thing as a macho African man. Machoism is a European creation, and African men don't need to be macho. We just need to be African men. I deal with that. I deal with boyish mannerisms. I talk about, adult males who display boyish mannerisms, because we can't do that. You can't be quote unquote African man, but yet you catch temper tantrums. That's a boyish trait. So that trait has to be eradicated. And then I get into boys run amok. I talk about how until African men make themselves visible in the community, that these young boys that are out there will continue to ravage the community. Only men can get them under control. Only men.
Do you speak on self-discipline and the man and being disciplined with one woman and not running around?
Great. So that's in rules.
Sniffing.
That's in the rules of manhood. So
I'm sorry.
Rules of manhood. The first rule: don't play on the emotions of African women.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Don't use drugs, alcohol. Don't be nosy. Don't disrespect your compliment. Don't support another race before your own race. Don't date outside your race. It gets into all that. You know what I'm saying?
Is there any of those for women?
Well,
because I feel like y'all can't do this without us now.
No, we can't.
Yeah.
You can essentially switch it all out.
Okay, got you.
And and our duties is marry an African woman. You know what I'm saying? That's what you have to do. That's the first thing.
That's one of my questions.
That's the fourth duty of an African man. Marry an African woman.
Yeah.
That's your duty. You can't. That's not even a discussion or debate. It make no sense for us to keep on saying, "Well, I'm not gonna get married." No, as an African man, we have to marry African women.
Ashe.
Can you close? I just want to ask my love, feeling or choice?
You say feeling or choice? It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Feeling is essentially within it, because you're gonna feel for anyone that you care for deeply.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But love is not preceded by feeling. You know what I'm saying? The true feeling is going to develop out of the love, and the love is going to come with the struggle.
Gotcha.
So essentially, love becomes understanding. It's understanding your relationship and obligations to a person or thing in such a way that dictates how you respond and relate to that person or thing.
I thought about old couples.
Yeah.
Where they reach a point of understanding.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what it is.
Yeah,
it's
got
understanding, so you know when not to argue. You know what I'm saying? It's understanding.
Okay.
Gosh, we need 2
I
hours.
know.
I don't know why we try to cram you into 1 hour. That will never happen again. Tell them how you can find your book.
Well, you can find me on Facebook. Just go to Imhotep Fatiu on Facebook, and you can inbox me directly, and you can get copies of the book.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I
Appreciate
enjoy
that.
it, so I look forward to coming back.
Yes,
And coming
yes.
back.
We look forward to having you. We love having you here. Trust me.
Yes, we do. Okay, family, we have went over the Empower Hour. We apologize for that, but it was such a good discussion. Share.
Yes.
The whole point of these shows is for us to get the information out there. So please, family, share the information and join us next week for another topic of discussion on the Empower Hour. Take care. Peace.